Most people are being misled by what they see. Scroll through social media and it looks like everyone is winning. Luxury cars, designer outfits, expensive vacations, stylish apartments, everything is designed to signal success. It feels like the world is full of people who have already made it. But what you see is not the full story. Behind many of those images is something very different: financial stress, debt, pressure, and a constant struggle to maintain appearances. Because in today's world, looking rich has become easier than actually being rich. And that's where the problem begins. A lot of the things people associate with wealth are not signs of financial freedom at all. In fact, they are often the exact behaviors that slow wealth down or completely block it. The car that looks impressive might be financed. The clothes that look expensive might be bought on credit. The lifestyle that looks effortless might actually be carefully managed debt. And yet, from the outside, it all looks like success. But here's the real question. What if most of these wealth signals are actually traps in disguise? Because once you understand that, you start to see the world very differently. 1. Luxury cars on finance. One of the most powerful illusions of wealth is the luxury car. To the outside world, it represents success. It signals status, achievement, and financial freedom. When someone pulls up in a high-end vehicle, people immediately assume they've reached a certain level in life. It creates respect before a single word is spoken. But what most people don't see is the reality behind that image. For a large number of people, that luxury car is not owned in the true sense. It is financed. And that means every month, a significant portion of income is tied to something that is constantly losing value. The moment that car leaves the dealership, it begins to depreciate. Yet the payments continue for years. And it doesn't stop there. Insurance is higher because the car is expensive. Maintenance costs more because parts and servicing are premium. Even fuel and repairs add up in ways most people underestimate. Slowly, what looked like a symbol of success becomes a consistent drain on cash flow. This is where the illusion becomes dangerous. Because on the surface, it looks like someone is doing well. But internally, their income is already committed before it even arrives. There is less room to save, less room to invest, and less room to build anything meaningful. And that's the key difference. Real wealth is not built through liabilities that lose value. It is built through assets that grow, generate income, or create long-term stability. Wealthy people understand this early. They don't measure success by what impresses others in the short term. They measure success by what strengthens their financial position in the long term. A car should be transportation, not a financial strategy. Because every dollar that goes into looking rich is a dollar that cannot go into becoming rich. 2. Designer clothing and status brands. Another powerful illusion of wealth comes from what people wear. Designer clothing, luxury brands, and high-status labels are often seen as symbols of success. They carry emotional weight. A simple logo can instantly change how someone feels about themselves and how they believe others perceive them. For many people, that feeling becomes the real product they are buying. Not the clothing itself, but the identity attached to it. This is where branding becomes powerful. It doesn't just sell fabric or design. It sells status, belonging, and validation. It tells people, if you wear this, you are successful, you are important, you are ahead of others. And so, people start spending emotionally instead of logically. They don't ask, is this worth the price in terms of quality or durability? They ask, how will I look in this? Or even deeper, how will people see me in this? Over time, this creates a pattern. Income that could be saved or invested is instead used to maintain an image. Not because the clothing is necessary, but because the identity feels necessary. But here is the problem. Identity built on consumption is expensive to maintain. Trends change, brands evolve, new collections drop constantly, and each time there is pressure to keep up, to upgrade, to stay relevant. What starts as a simple purchase slowly turns into a cycle of repeated spending just to feel current. Meanwhile, many people who are truly building wealth take a very different approach. They often lean toward simplicity, neutral styles, durable clothing, less focus on trends, more focus on consistency. Not because they don't appreciate quality, but because they understand that wealth is not proven through clothing. It is proven through financial independence. They recognize something important. Confidence that depends on appearance is fragile. Real confidence comes from knowing your financial foundation is strong, regardless of what you are wearing. Because when your identity is tied to brands, you are always one purchase away from feeling behind. But when your identity is tied to discipline, progress, and control, you no longer need external validation to feel successful. And that shift quietly changes everything. 3. Renting or living beyond means for image. One of the most overlooked traps of looking rich is where people choose to live. At first glance, a stylish apartment in a modern building or a home in a trendy neighborhood feels like success. It feels like progress. It feels like you've reached a certain level in life where your surroundings finally match your ambitions. And that feeling is exactly what makes this trap so powerful. Because for many people, housing stops being a practical decision and becomes an image decision. The focus shifts from, what can I comfortably afford, to where will I look successful? So they stretch their budget. Sometimes slightly, sometimes dangerously far. They choose the better location, the better view, the better building. Not because it fits their financial reality, but because it fits the image they want to project. But the cost of that image is constant. High rent becomes a fixed pressure every single month. It is not flexible. It doesn't adjust when income drops or expenses rise. It demands payment regardless of what happens in life. And over time, it quietly takes away financial breathing room. Because when a large portion of income is locked into rent, something else gets sacrificed. Investing gets delayed. Savings become inconsistent. Emergency funds stay small or non-existent. And financial growth slows down without people even realizing it. This is how appearance slowly replaces progress. From the outside, everything still looks successful. A nice address, a modern interior, a lifestyle that seems put together. But internally, there is less freedom than ever. Every decision becomes tighter. Every expense matters more. There is less space to take risks, less space to build, and less space to grow. And that is the irony. Some of the people who look the most successful in their living situations are often the least flexible financially. Real wealth builders think differently. They understand that housing is a foundation, not a performance. It should support financial growth, not restrict it. They prioritize stability and control over status and impression. Because a home should give you peace, not pressure. And when you stop choosing where to live based on how it looks, you finally start choosing based on how it builds your future. 4. Credit lifestyle and buy now, pay later thinking. One of the biggest reasons people appear wealthier than they actually are today is credit. Credit has completely changed the way people consume. It has made it possible to access almost anything instantly. Phones, furniture, clothing, travel, even everyday spending, without needing the actual money in hand. And at first, that feels powerful. It feels like progress. It feels like freedom. But in reality, it often creates the opposite. Because credit doesn't remove the cost of something, it only delays it. This is where the illusion begins. When people use buy now, pay later systems or rely heavily on credit cards, they start to experience a false sense of financial strength. They can afford more things in the moment. Their lifestyle expands quickly. Their surroundings improve. Their consumption increases. From the outside, it can even look like success. But behind the scenes, every purchase becomes a future obligation. Every swipe of a card turns into a repayment cycle, and over time, those small decisions start stacking up into something much heavier than expected. This creates a silent financial pressure that many people don't fully recognize until it becomes overwhelming. Because when a large portion of your future income is already committed to past spending, your financial flexibility disappears. You stop being in control of your money, and instead, your money starts controlling you. The danger is that credit removes the emotional friction of spending. When you don't feel the immediate loss of money, it becomes easier to justify purchases. It becomes easier to repeat the behavior. And slowly, lifestyle inflation happens without real income growth to support it. So people feel richer than they are. They live better than their financial foundation allows. And for a while, it works, until the repayments, interest, and obligations catch up. Real wealth works differently. It is not built on delayed consequences. It is built on actual capacity, on spending within limits that still allow saving, investing, and long-term growth. Wealth is not about how much you can access through credit. It's about how much you truly own after everything is paid off. Because credit can make you look successful instantly, but discipline is what keeps you successful over time. 5. Fake investments and trend chasing. The final illusion is one of the most dangerous because it disguises itself as intelligence. It looks like ambition. It looks like opportunity. It even looks like financial awareness. But in reality, it is often just emotional decision-making dressed up as investing. This is the world of trend chasing. Every few months, something new appears that promises fast wealth. A new asset class, a viral investment opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime chance that everyone suddenly starts talking about. And the pressure builds quickly, because when people see others making money, they don't want to be left behind. So they rush in, not because they understand it deeply, but because they feel they should be part of it. The fear of missing out becomes stronger than logic. And in that moment, decisions stop being based on knowledge and start being based on emotion. Sometimes it works at first. A few early wins create excitement. They build confidence. They make it feel like this approach is working. But that is exactly what makes it dangerous. Because short-term success without understanding often leads to long-term mistakes. When people invest based on hype instead of skill, they usually don't have a system. They don't understand risk properly. They don't know when to exit or how to manage volatility. They are simply reacting to movement, not analyzing it. And when the trend shifts, as it always does, they are often the last to adapt and the first to suffer losses. Real investing is very different. It is slow. It is patient. It is built on learning, repetition, and discipline. It is not about chasing what is popular today, but understanding what creates value over time. Wealthy individuals often spend years building knowledge before making significant moves, because they understand that capital without understanding is fragile. The real trap here is not just losing money. It is building a false sense of competence. When people confuse luck with skill, they repeat the same behavior on a larger scale, and the risks grow with them. True wealth is not created by jumping from one opportunity to another. It is created by mastering the fundamentals, staying consistent, and allowing time to do the heavy lifting. Because trends come and go, but financial understanding compounds. At this point, the pattern should be clear. Real wealth is not always what it looks like from the outside. In fact, in many cases, The strongest financial positions are the least visible. While some people are focused on presenting success, others are quietly building it, without needing attention, approval, or validation. The difference is not just income, it is identity. Because one identity is built around appearance, around looking successful, around being seen as someone who has made it. And that identity is expensive to maintain. It constantly requires upgrades, impressions, and lifestyle pressure just to stay relevant. But the other identity is different. It is built around discipline, around patience, around long-term thinking. It does not depend on what others think. It depends on what actually works. And over time, that identity creates something far more powerful than image. It creates freedom. The uncomfortable truth is that many people are not poor because they don't earn enough. They are stuck because too much of what they earn is tied to maintaining the appearance of success. And as long as that cycle continues, financial progress stays slow, no matter how hard they work. But once you see it, something changes. You start questioning every decision, not from fear, but from awareness. You stop asking, will this make me look successful? And start asking, will this make me financially stronger? That shift may seem small, but it changes everything. Because wealth is not built in moments of big income. It is built in moments of small decisions, repeated consistently over time. And the real breakthrough happens when you finally realize this. You don't need to look rich to become rich. You need to think differently, act differently, and build differently, until wealth becomes a natural result of your discipline, not your image. And when that happens, you stop chasing the illusion and start building the reality.